There are tons of guides out there to teach you how to play different characters correctly, but when the time comes to play ranked, only so much information can really help you buckle down and carry your team to victory. I've made these types of videos myself, and while they are great resources to learn characters and their potential, sometimes it's difficult to pull out the practical tips that win you games. So let's cut out the nonsense and learn what you really need to climb as Zenyatta. It might seem like he doesn't do a lot of healing, reducing the need to focus on this aspect of his kit, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Healing as Zenyatta is super important to utilize efficiently and effectively, but it isn't as easy as just putting it on your DPS and moving on. You have to understand the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Sure, perma-orbing Tracer is efficient. 30 HP a second is 20% of her health pool per second when you look at the numbers. However, ask yourself, what is the situation? Is it necessarily effective all of the time? 20% a second is very nice, but it means nothing if no damage is being taken. This is why starting off the fight with your orb on Wrecking Ball in Zen Brig compositions is pretty much textbook. The ball is usually taking the brunt of the damage in rotation. Once the space is made, the Tracer can receive the orb for the cleanup. Now obviously this is in a purely perfect situation. Sometimes your Tracer is extremely aggressive and playing to take duels very commonly. If this is the case, then you might want to focus the orb on her. When opportunities arise and someone is out of position, dishing your orb to a DPS is great as they are about to take the engagement and are most likely to need the healing given the damage they will take throughout the duel. Keep in mind though that your orbs fall off after only a few seconds of breaking line of sight, so try and rotate into positions in which you can see your team safely and deal damage alongside them. In short, remember these three things. Work on just getting orb on someone to start, then work on maintaining line of sight to maximize uptime, and third, be effective, not efficient. Moving on, it is difficult to make a good tip guide without talking about Discord. This ability follows the same idea as Harmony. It is important to first get used to just dishing it around at the start and then switching to understanding which targets need it the most as you grow and improve. The biggest mistake I see is players targeting enemies that your team can't realistically follow up upon. For example, if there's an enemy echo very far away and you don't have a diva or hit scan present, targeting them is simply just a waste of time. Rather, focusing on poking out the front line to allow your team to walk forward is a better first step, as it will then open up the opportunity to extinguish the threat of that echo. This is the same idea of trying to force yourself onto the enemy backline. Of course, there are ways to set yourself up to get there easier, but the main idea is that you don't want to tunnel vision on your own damage, and rather how you should help your team. Who should you focus with Discord though? Some targets are just better than others, like supports are the enemy's main tank, as it allows you to burst down the space makers quickly. To be fair though, this is a warped way of looking at the ability. Rather, you should look for two things: how important the target is to the enemy win condition, and if the target is out of position. This will let your team take advantage of the mistake quickly and start off fights with a pick or maybe even two. Aside from this, remember that your orb targets are shown on the right side of your screen in Overwatch 1 and at the bottom of Overwatch 2. Use this to help your team focus on key targets. An example of this is on a Discord in Hotel on King's Row, as opposed to just on a Discord or Discord Hotel. When you have information like this on your hands, it's important to translate it to your team correctly. Now, don't over communicate, but understand how you can communicate better. If you miss a target or are just poking before the fight starts, you don't and shouldn't calm that all the time, as it isn't really important. However, when the fight breaks out, that is when it gets important. Overcalming is arguably worse than not calming at all, so make sure you listen to yourself and understand if you're rambling on too long. I know it probably isn't what you want to hear, but aim is really important to get down when learning Zen. Luckily enough, there are codes that make this process much easier. Just shooting in Vaxta is a great start, but with more focused training, you can really get the most out of your practice. It is important to learn how the projectile functions at a lot of different ranges from close range to long range, because you will have to compensate for the speed of the orbs flying through the air accordingly. Close range shots are practically hit scan, mid-range shots require a bit of compensation, and long range shots are really tough. This might seem intimidating, but understand that your lack of healing is compensated by the damage you provide, and if you are bold enough to pick Zen and Ladder, you must trust that you can get picks when it is time. Realize, however, that you still want to avoid forcing yourself to take those really hard shots. The echo flying through the sky is a worse use of your ammo compared to breaking the enemy's shields before they can walk against you as Reinhardt. Just make sure in the pursuit of making easier shots for yourself that you don't compromise your positioning by getting too close, leading you to die. Now, I could talk about complex ideas like positioning, transcendence, and rotations, but there are videos I have made in the past for stuff like this. The real problems are the practical problems. Ladder is not perfect, and Zenyatta really struggles because of this. He's a glass cannon support that needs help to really pop off. If you don't have that help, it's time to switch. For example, if you are playing Zenyatta and the enemy is running characters like Genji, Tracer, Winston, Ball, Diva, etc., and you don't have a Brig, switching to one yourself or even Moira might be the best option. It is very easy to run into a brick wall as this character, so avoid it when it's possible. That is why I consider him harder to climb as in most ranks. On top of that, Zen Brig oftentimes struggles in ladder, especially below GM, because most people don't know how to play with a deficit of healing. Sometimes Zen Mercy compositions fall under the same problems too. So if your team is simply dying before you can get in and create your value, characters like Ana and Baptiste might be better options. If you want to learn these characters, there are also resources that you can find below as well. Before we close though, let's rapid fire a few more tips that will help you in those niche situations ladder throws at you. Just because you are a glass cannon doesn't mean you can't get aggressive when you need to. Your positioning and rotations are very dependent by the situation and your team comp, not innate to the character. With a Sigma, you can take aggressive off angles away from your core, while with Brig, you are a serious threat and walk to many areas you otherwise couldn't. Transcendence sometimes does get forced out before it can be used to counter a key ultimate. Always make sure though to discord before you use the trank and focus these targets down to guarantee a fight win. When playing against double shield compositions without a shield of your own, just charge your alternate fire behind a corner and fire away at the shield once you are ready. This gives you a bit of value while your team is setting up to dive. Bonus points if the shields are Reinhardt's or Sigmas. Charging up your alternate fire around corners is also very helpful in general, as it leaves you less exposed, gives you the jump on unsuspecting enemies, and can even find picks while you are in rotation. The tools are in your hands to pub stomp lobbies as Zenyatta, but it is up to you to use them. You've already made it to this video, so the passion is clearly there, just get after it. He takes a lot of time and practice to get precise with his mechanics, but it is a very rewarding experience. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.